Believe it or not, Tampa Bay Buccaneers veterans report tomorrow, July 28th for training camp. That's right, baby. We've made it. Now, granted, the first practice isn't until Wednesday, the 29th, but still, that gives us plenty of time to talk about the 10 biggest questions the Bucs need to find answers to during training camp. I'm Evan Winter with A to Z Sports. Let's break it down. Before we do that, though, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. The first week of this show has gotten off to a great start. I really appreciate everybody's support. So let's keep it rolling and let's get this thing really going before the regular season rolls around. With all that being said, it's time for question number one. And to me, this is the most important question for the Buccaneers this season. And that's, what will Zach Robinson's offense look like and how effective will it be? I'll just go ahead and be frank. The Buccaneers cannot afford to have a 2023 type season with Zach Robinson. Now, what is the significance of the 2023 season? Well, if you've been following this team like I have, that's when Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers. That was a roller coaster season on offense. The running game was non-existent. The passing game showed flashes of potential, but couldn't string it together for consecutive weeks. And just overall, the Bucs offense was an unknown product going into every single Sunday or Monday or Thursday, whenever they were playing. That can't be the case in 2026. This has to be a top 12 unit under Zach Robinson this year, because there are far too many questions on defense for the offense to also partake in the unknown. So we know there's going to be a lot of wide zone implemented in the rushing attack. Obviously, Emeka Egbuka is settling more into the Z position. But what will the other pieces look like, and how will they fare? Will they come out of the gates hot? We know that defenses usually have the heads up, the advantage when training camp first starts. Either way, we'll get a perfect look at it over the next month, and it's got to hit the ground running. Or sorry, not hit the ground running, but it needs to be a good unit, and it needs to find a vibe and gel before the regular season starts. Question number two, sticking with the offense, it's got to be, is Baker Mayfield on track? Last year, during the first 8 weeks of the season, this guy was a leading MVP candidate in most circles, and then everything fell apart, as we know, afterward. Now, his injuries had a whole lot to do with that, but a lot of Baker's decision-making was an issue as well. So what does he look like in camp? Does he come out of the gates hot? I mean, he has to, in my opinion. You know, Pewter Report reported that he was kind of ho-hum during OTAs and minicamp. There wasn't ever really a practice where he's flat out dominated. And while, again, it's OTAs and minicamp, and it's first year under a new system, that's still, you know, something to definitely keep an eye on and think about, because you want a quarterback, especially if you're going to pay him or maybe pay him what the Buccaneers are going to pay him. You want him to have some really good practices here and there. Not everything's going to be perfect. He's not going to come out and be Peyton Manning and Tom Brady every single practice. And hey, even Peyton Manning and Tom Brady have had bad practices over the course of their careers. But still, is Baker back on track? How many plays is he making? Is he throwing a lot of interceptions, turnovers, or is he making plays, scoring points? That needs to get answered over the next month. Number three is, now we're flipping over the defensive side of the ball. Will Ruben Bain Jr.'s momentum from OTAs and minicamp and just the offseason in general, will that carry over into training camp? Obviously, the pads come on after about the fourth or fifth practice, somewhere in there. And he's got to flash once those pads come on. You know, T-shirts and shorts and shells leading up to that or whatever. But once the pads come on, Ruben Bain has to show why he was taken with the 15th overall pick in the draft. Now, granted, he's going to be going up against two really good tackles in Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke. But still, he's got to make plays against those guys. And if he shows that he can make plays against those guys in training camp, man, it's going to be a lot to look forward to when it comes to that pass rush, you know, as long as everybody stays healthy. Flipping back over to the offensive side of the ball for number four is, what exactly will this wide receiver hierarchy look like, right? I mean, Chris Godwin figured to be the number one guy in this offense in the passing attack, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Emeka Egbuka showed last year that he can carry the passing attack, although you probably want him to have a little bit less responsibility this year, and that's why he's settling more into the flanker position than, you know, playing all around the offense. And we've talked about this guy before, but Jalen McMillan, he has a chance to really have a breakout year. And Zach Robinson has talked about using guys to their strengths. He doesn't like to pigeonhole people. So I have a feeling this is going to be an offense that kind of spreads the ball around more than it does just, you know, targets a guy 160 times, you know, in a season. But still, the Bucs do need to find out who's going to be their reliable target whenever it's that crucial third down or they need that touchdown, you know, whatever the scenario might be. But we'll get a glimpse at how the wide receiver hierarchy is shaking out over the next few weeks, and that should carry some weight going into the regular season. So now we're ping-ponging a bit, and we're going to go back to the defensive side of the ball for the fifth question on this list, and that who is taking snaps next to Alex Anzalone. Obviously, Josiah Trotter is the favorite to be that guy next to Alex Anzalone, but even though his coverage skills were kind of overblown in terms of people saying he can't cover, I mean, the guy wasn't really asked to cover a lot in Missouri, and when he did, he wasn't bad at it. But you still want him to get that feel. So I would say Josiah Trotter is going to be there on the rundowns, the early base downs, things like that. And then who knows who comes in after that? Servassier Dennis had some very questionable coverage moments last year. And then Christian Roseboom, he's kind of a wild card in all this. We haven't really gotten to see him since he missed mandatory minicamp, due to the birth of his kid. But whoever takes those snaps next to Alex Anzalone, it's going to be crucial because the second level of Todd Bowles' defense has to be on par for his defense to work just overall. And that's been the problem in the last 2 years is the play at the middle linebacker position. I mean, go back to when the Bucs won the Super Bowl. How good was Levante David and Devin White as a tandem that year, right? And I mean, that's when we saw this defense just soar and do all kinds of great things. So whoever's taking snaps next to Alex Anzalone, that's going to be big. And don't be surprised if there's a rotation early on, but, we'll just have to see and go from there. Ping pong into the other side of the ball. What's the distribution going to look like between Kenneth Gainwell and Bucky Irving? Now, this is probably going to be a little slanted in the beginning because Bucky's still coming back from that offseason shoulder surgery. So we'll probably see more Kenny Gainwell in the beginning. But once we get around to that first preseason game, that's going to be really clutch. And I'm not saying watch out for the distribution in the preseason game because, again, there's a lot to take with a grain of salt in preseason games, obviously. But by that time is when we should really start to see this rotation round out and just what the Bucs plan on doing with these two guys. Todd Bowles has been on record saying, it's going to be a 1A, 1B type situation. So that's what I expect to see once right around that first preseason game when, Bucky's shoulder is probably good to go. But until then, it's going to be interesting because both guys, similar skill sets, similar body types, fast, quick, twitchy, can both run and catch out of the backfield, pretty good in pass pro. So it's going to be interesting to see just how the guys or the Bucs divvy these guys up. Number 7 on this list is going to be the defensive line additions, the impact of those guys. DeMonte Capehart, A'Shawn Robinson, Nacho's return. The Bucs defensive line has to be good this year, and those guys are going to play a key role in it if it is an effective unit. And we need to hear reports about them making plays in camp. Can't have a ho-hum camp because, again, there are so many questions on this defense starting up front that we need some kind of answer before the regular season starts. And that even goes for Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea. I know they're not additions, obviously, but A, Kalijah's got to stay healthy. B, Vita's got to show that he can still play at a high level like he's been doing pretty much ever since he's been here in Tampa Bay. But yeah, those defensive line additions, they've got to make a big impact during camp, and we'll just have to see if they can. The shape of the secondary is up next. And you could argue this could easily be higher on this list. I mean, this list is not in any specific order. These are just questions that, I put down and wanted to talk about. But the shape of the secondary, is this going to be a unit, including the safeties, even though Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tyke Smith are on the field? What's going to happen when they're not on the field? But regardless, is this unit going to be making plays and picking off passes? Is it going to stay healthy? Or is it going to be giving up big touchdowns in the passing game, giving up chunk plays, all that other stuff? And more importantly, is it going to be showing that it's a unit that's capable of tackling at a high level too? Because as far as we've seen in the past, a missed tackle can mean 6 points in an instant. I mean, we just go back to one of the very first plays of the season when Servassier Dennis missed the tackle on Bijan Robinson and he housed it 50 yards to the end zone on a quick little pass from Michael Penix Jr. So the secondary's got to hold up during training camp. Will they? We'll just have to wait and see. Now, these last two are a little not like abstract, but they are important. And number 1 is the special teams. What does that look like? It's going to be hard to judge because special teams obviously is on a completely different field than offense and defense. And plus, a lot of times, most eyes are on the offense and defense, and rightfully so. But we'll definitely hear whether or not the special teams has made progress. over the course of the next month or so. And it all starts with Riley Dixon. If people are reporting that his hang time's not there, or he just doesn't look improved, that's going to be an issue. The Bucs have to find a solution at punter. Riley Dixon, they believe, can do that, especially after releasing Aiden Leos out of Kentucky, the undrafted free agent they had on the roster a little while ago. Will he be able to do it, and will that coverage unit be able to hold up? That's going to be a huge topic because it definitely cost the Bucs a couple of games last year. And then last but not least, can Jalen Daniels work his way up the depth chart? I mean, the Buccaneers right now don't have a viable backup quarterback situation. Jake Browning, you should only trust him as far as you can throw him. And I know he said in his introductory presser with the Buccaneers that a lot of his failures last year were on him for just trying to be the guy, trying to wear that Superman cape when he didn't need to because he wanted to keep the Bengals afloat while Joe Burrow was out. But man, he was not good. And you got to wonder if he's going to be in that same situation with the Buccaneers, because the Buccaneers have aspirations, right? And Baker Mayfield is what drives the team. He is the guy. So I don't know about Jake Browning. And plus, just even before last year, he's just been only okay as a starting option. And then Connor Bazelak, second-year player, former UDFA. Bucs love his progress, but I don't feel comfortable with him getting out there either. And honestly, I'm not going to feel comfortable if Jalen Daniels has to go on the field either. But out of those three guys, he has the best skill set. He has the best decision-making, and the Buccaneers coaching staff loves him. And he's a lot more mobile than those two guys as well. Even though Browning's got some wheels, Jalen Daniels has a far better athletic profile. So, in a, I guess, perfect world or semi-perfect world, Jalen Daniels could easily be the number 2 guy going into the season. And that all starts in camp. And the key thing with him, too, is he's going to be QB4 on the depth chart most likely. How are the Bucs going to give him reps? Baker Mayfield's probably going to have some maintenance days, right? He's probably going to have some off days here and there because got to be careful with a over 30 veteran quarterback. So that'll open the door there. But I'm going to be really interested to see too how these practice reps are divvied up for Jalen Daniels, and if he gets the opportunity. His best opportunity is going to be in the preseason. That's where he's going to make his hay. So, but before that, it all matters what happens in training camp to determine that playing time, right? Like, even though it's preseason, Bucs probably aren't going to want to play him a lot if he's out there just stinking it up on the practice field. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Jalen Daniels does during training camp. So that's it. Tell me what you think. Did I miss something? Are all these spot on? Is there more points that you want to add to what I discussed? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. But until then, take care. Tune in to A to Z Sports Tampa Bay. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll be talking some ball real soon.